Hello everyone and welcome to Cherries Red Army and our latest pre-season video. We're going to have a bit of fun. There's been lots of debate since we got promoted back to the Premier League about who is the best promotion team. Well, we thought, why not build the ultimate promotion starting 11 from that 2014-15 Eddie Howe team and Scott Parker's 2021-22 AFC Bournemouth team. And I've got a couple of Cherries Red Army team members helping me on this video. Matt, you've been itching to get back onto a video. I know you've been very busy lately. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to be on again, Kirk. Had a little break, got myself refreshed. It's finally sunk in everything that's happened over the past 9 months, and now we've got to do this, which is a hell of a challenge for me.
Aaron, we've done a few videos like this last season during pre-season and they were very difficult. This one's going to be another difficult one. We're going to explain how it all works in a moment, but good to have you on another Cherries Red Army video.
Yeah, always good to be here. Looking forward to talking football, but withdrawal symptoms at the moment. So yeah, always good to talk the Cherries.
Thanks for joining us then, and we want you to get involved tonight. If this is an interactive video where the chat is open, please get involved and let us know what you're thinking. You can talk to other AFC Bournemouth fans and subscribe to Cherries Red Army. We've gone past 1,000. Thank you very much for that. Continue to spread the word, share videos on all your socials. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to simplify it as much as possible. We could put loads of names in the hat, but there's basically going to be battles for each position. On the screen, you'll see two names for each position. You'll see Artur Boruc versus Travers for goalkeeper. Right back, Francis versus Smith. Centre back, Steve Cook versus Phillips. Another centre back, Elphick versus Kelly. Left back, Daniels versus Samora. Holding midfielder, Andrew Sermon versus Lewis Cook. Centre midfield, Harry Arter versus Jeff Lerma. Matt Ritchie versus Christie off the right-hand side. Pugh versus Anthony off the left. Kermagant versus Billing, because interestingly, both teams had a different formation. And Callum Wilson versus Dom Solanke. Matt, it's easy as that, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not, is it? Definitely not easy at all in any way, shape or form. There might be a bit, I mean, I'm talking from my perspective, there might be a little bit of bias towards 14-15 purely because of the brand of football that we played, the fact that it was so unique, it was so unexpected at the time, and the memories that go with that. But we have to, I think we have to judge it on its merits, and we have to be fair with it, don't we? And take all factors into consideration, really.
It's a good point, Aaron, because we need to judge these players on the performances during their season. We're not looking at Matt Ritchie now in his 30s. We're looking at Matt Ritchie in 2014-15, and we're ultimately trying to build a really good football team that could take on anyone. But this is when they were in their best form of their career.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, if it was to be played now, then the team of now would obviously wipe the floor with them. But no, as Matt said, there's a lot of nostalgia there. Eddie brought a team up from League One, well, League Two really, but a lot of those players were with us in League One. But as you say, some of the players in today's team have had Premier League experience already. So it's going to be difficult, but we've got to be as impartial as possible and build the team on its merits.
Okay, we said it was going to be fun. So instead of us just building from the back, and I don't want the responsibility of saying that you're going to get these players, Matt, and you're going to get these players, Aaron, we're going to let a spin the wheel decider. We did this last season on a couple of videos. So we're going to bring it back for this pre-season. So Matt, you're going to be the first person to go first, but we're going to spin the wheel. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Spin the wheel. Straight in there, Matt, with Matt Ritchie and Ryan Christie. Well, take it away. You're going for the right-hand side.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with Matt Ritchie then. Nothing short of phenomenal, really, from when we bought him. As Aaron said, bought him when we were in League One, and I think from minute, well, he took a little while, didn't he, to adapt. I think Eddie Howe played him quite deep to start with, even deployed him as a. I think he started his career with us as a left back for a little while, just to sort of fill a need at the time, as I remember. But as soon as he sort of settled down, the numbers that he produced in the final third, which is what I'm going to judge both players on, were phenomenal. Some of the goals that he scored, and assists, and the things, his creation in that final third was, for me, along with his work rate, was a major factor in why we won the division when we did in 2015. So that's Matt Ritchie. We all know that. We all saw it at the time. And he did it over a prolonged period. He proved himself. He did it at Premier League level as well, up to a point. Ryan Christie, for me, is still yet to prove that. I think the potential is there, definitely. But the problem with Ryan Christie, as we all know, is that when he gets into the box, he tends to fall apart for whatever reason. It's got to be psychological. It's a mental thing, because 9 times out of 10, whether it's an assist that he's got to give or putting the ball in the back of the net, he's not been doing that. His work rate, it can't be questioned. The same as Matt Ritchie, phenomenal work rate, and he'll run all day for you. But I've got to judge it at the position that they're in, albeit we're playing a 4-3-3 now, if you like, and it was a 4-4-2 back then. But taking both players like for like, you're looking at the numbers, aren't you, for the position they're playing, and you're looking at the assists, you're looking at the goals, you're looking at their overall contribution. And for me, it has to be Matt Ritchie. Okay, Matt Ritchie for Matt. Aaron, you've got a decision as well. Which player are you going for?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I think Matt made a lot of good points in favour of Matt Ritchie. They're both very similar, aren't they? They both like to first play off the right. They're both not blessed with huge pace, and they're very similar in their work ethic. They're both absolute workhorses. One thing Ryan Christie gave us last year was just energy and just an absolute never say die attitude. So they are very, very similar. And yeah, like to do the same sort of thing. But I think, yeah, as Matt said, pure numbers, the goals, the assists, just puts Matt Ritchie ahead as of now. Clean sweep. I'll give Matt Ritchie the spot as well. And I'm going to build the football pitch behind the scenes. And as we go through it, I'll start to show you what that football pitch will look like. But Matt Ritchie wins the first battle. Aaron, over to you then. Who are you going to get? Let's go spin that wheel, shall we? Let's do it. There's a couple I don't want to get, so let's see. It's at the top end of the pitch today, I tell you. It's Jan Kermigan versus Philip Billing, and this could decide what formation we go with, Aaron. Yeah, this is a difficult one. Jan Kermigan was the unsung hero for me in that promotion campaign. He didn't play, obviously, every game. He was a brilliant foil for Callum Wilson. He shared it to some extent with Brett Pittman, who I think in the former show we named as one of our best ever Cherries 11s, I think. I've got a lot of time for Brett. But Jan was such a clever player, deceptively good with his feet, good in the air. He wasn't actually a target man as such. He wasn't hugely that tall as people thought he was. But he was very good in the air, good holding the ball up, but such a clever player, flicks and things like that. And weighed in with a lot of goals as well, able to drop deep. Brilliant free kick taker. Never forget that free kick away at Brighton, I think it was. Right. Yeah, and some unbelievable goal and bullet headers and bicycle kicks. I think against Leeds as well. So many memories. Some of those might not have been in that final season. But Eddie, being ruthless as he was, didn't feel he was capable of stepping up to the Premier League. And I think at the time, people could argue rightly or wrongly about that, but Eddie kind of was really ruthless in that respect. Phil Billing took his time to win us over. I think when he first came into the squad, I think it's fair to say we know his best position isn't in a two in midfield. I think that's where Eddie originally played him, looking for more of a box-to-box player, helping out defensively. But it was actually Jonathan Woodgate who moved him into the position, and he's never really looked back. He was brilliant at the end, at the tail end of last season. He's been outstanding this season. He's had his moments. I think Phil has played a lot of football this season. Needed a break at certain times. I think his style will always divide people. The way he's a bit languid, doesn't look like he's putting everything in, but I think that's just the way he is. But his numbers speak for themselves this season. Double figures in assists and goals. And he's been a huge part. So we're judging on this season. So for me, this is a very, very tight one, because I said I've got a lot of time for what Jan did. But I'm going to go with Phil Billing. I think he's capable of stepping up to the Premier League. Obviously, he's already played in the Premier League, but I think in this new position of his, I think he's going to cause a lot of problems. So for me, Phil Billing gets the nod.
Yeah, I think where we are, and I'm going to go around the room, Matt, and just get your chosen player from this battle, but I think I would nudge towards Philip Billing in nowadays how football sort of is played, and I think it would sort of, this ultimate team would suit a Philip Billing, but it would need to be a Billing on his day, not a Billing who doesn't turn up. But Matt, I'm going with Billing. That sort of wins the battle, but are you going to confirm Billing or Jan?
Do you know what? As Aaron was speaking there, 1 minute I was going, no, I'm going Jan. And then the next second I'd be thinking, actually, no, I'm going Phil Bill. It's one of them. You're not actually comparing apples for apples, are you, here? Because they're both very different players. It's because of the formation that we want to play. And, you know, so we've had to pitch Billing against Kermagant. But both very clever footballers, both offered a lot to us in the final third. But both have limitations, I think it's fair to say. Jan would be better in the air and better deployed as a target man, even though he had a lot more to his game than just being a target man. But Philip Billing can find pockets, better on the floor, maybe not so great in the air, can make things happen out of nowhere, as Jan could as well. So it is a really, really tough decision, this one. And I don't envy Aaron having that choice to make ultimately. I would agree with both you boys. I would just about go with Phil Billing. Based on the fact that he's done it in the Premier League, and I feel that there's more to come from him in the Premier League. Maybe, as Eddie thought, Jan was a little bit one-dimensional, maybe coming towards the end of his career, and maybe didn't suit the way that we play football and the Premier, and the way that the Premier League is set up, to be honest, the way we have to play football in the Premier League, the fast-paced nature of it, which I think Philip Billing can adapt to in that role behind the whether it's the front two or front three. So, by a whisker, as you rightly say, Kirk, it's Phil Bill, as long as we get the Phil Bill that we know and love and not the other version.
Right, let's crack on because we've got 9 more players to choose from, and that's a player from each era at the moment. And it's now my turn to spin the wheel. Who am I going to get? Funky music. It's all about attack, isn't it? We've got no defensive battles yet going on, but we've got the other side. We've got Pugh versus Anthony. Wow, Mark Pugh, I mean, what a player. £100,000 did he cost us from Hereford? I mean, an absolute professional. Even now, when he's sort of not really retired, but he's not with a football club, he's still trying to be the best he can in a different industry and help others become the most healthiest and pro, and supporting the club now with the academy. But as a player, talented. I mean, I'm fortunate to have spared, sort of shared a 6-a-side pitch with him at Littledown, which is different to 11-a-side in the Premier League, I appreciate. But he's gone through the levels. He went through the Championship. He was massive in that 2014-15, consistent, done all the work going backwards, was brilliant going forward. You knew what he was going to do at the top end. You knew he was going to cut back 3 times and cross the ball or shoot. But the right fullback still fell for it every time. And the goals he scored, an absolute world beater at times, without going on to maybe play at the highest of highest levels, that did very, very well for us in the Premier League. Jayden Anthony, a player that we were looking to help us this season, came in straight away in the Championship when we had a bare squad and really kicked on. And I thought for a breakthrough season for Jayden Anthony, guys, you couldn't have asked for much more. I'm trying to remember his numbers. I think it's something like 8 goals, 8 assists, or 8 goals, 6 assists. Some big goals as well. I can remember the one at QPR when he nicked the ball off the fullback and scored that goal. And that he had some days where he weren't so good. That was mainly when Zamora wasn't in the team. But Jayden Anthony has definitely got a lot to offer in the future. But I can't see past Mark Pugh. I mean, the guy's an absolute legend. And I would still have him now, actually. I know we're talking about him in 2014-15, but he could probably still do a job now. So I'm going for Mark Pugh. Matt, Mark Pugh or Jayden Anthony?
Well, as you were talking there, Kurt, and I completely agree again with everything you're saying. But I'm sort of thinking, if you're Ryan Christie or you're Jayden Anthony, you're going to be saying, "Well, hang on a minute, we've only had a season with the club. You're talking about club. You're pitching us up against pretty much club legends here in Mark Pugh and Matt Ritchie, who have been there, done it. They're a lot older than us. So it's a bit of an unfair comparison. There's more to come from us, and you can't argue with that, particularly with Jayden Anthony, well, and Christie really. So it is so difficult, but I'm never going to go against Mark. Mark Pugh and Jayden Anthony at the moment, as it stands, it's going to be Mark Pugh all day long, isn't it? For everything that he's given to the football club, entertained us over so many years. Everything that he does off the field as well is a massive factor. But for me, the partnership that he formed, it was all about the partnership as well that he formed down that left side with Charlie Daniels was key for me. And everything that he offered us in the final third was just unbelievable, wasn't it? The development that came from him, Hereford United 1 minute, Premier League the next, wasn't it? So Mark Pugh for me, but more to come from Jayden Anthony. So, I'd like to caveat by saying, if we talked about it in a few years' time, maybe Jayden Anthony would have a better shout at this one.
Yeah, Aaron, 14-15, Mark Pugh, edges, 21-22, Jayden Anthony. He did have a very good partnership with Charlie Daniels. And in Anthony's defence, he'll say he had a good partnership with Jordan Zamora last season.
Yeah, look, I think Matt hit the nail on the head, doesn't he? Because, it's very difficult to compare apples to apples with any of this. And so I think, let's caveat that. And it's interesting to see what other people feel in the comments, certainly. Jayden Anthony, a lot more to come from him. I think we earmarked him in a previous show as potentially one which position we might look to strengthen, to maybe a Premier League ready player. Mark Pugh stepped up time and time again. Every single time he stepped up a division, he didn't let us down. And so, I'd have to agree. I would 100% choose Mark Pugh here on my left. Again, not blessed with pace, but didn't need it with his.
Okay, so let's get one more player out before we have a look at that football pitch and build the team. We're due a defender, guys, aren't we? Or someone negative in the team, or defensive, shall we say. Right, Matt, back round to you. We're going to spin that wheel. We're going to get next. Here we go. There it is. Right fullback, and both of these players actually played for Eddie Howe. It's Simon Francis 14-15 versus Adam Smith 21-22, Matt.
Well, this is another really tough one, isn't it? Because again, these are both, you're talking about two club legends again, really, aren't you? The service that both of these players and people have given to the football club has been absolutely phenomenal, particularly in this day and age. So let's judge it on the pitch then, and what they contributed to us purely on the pitch. Very, very difficult again. Both very athletic, both attacking fullbacks who on their day could be unplayable when they form partnerships with the right winger. Both have good delivery on them. Simon Francis, for me, would edge it defensively over Adam Smith, I must be honest. Part of that is down to his athleticism, so his height, his build, and everything that he offers there. So maybe you could say that he's got an advantage there physically, because he clearly had. But, I can't look past Simon Francis. I mean, that from sort of 2013 to 2018, he was on the verge of and I know Adam Smith has been mooted a few times as well, but he must have been on the verge of an England cap. And, for him to come from where he came from at Charlton Athletic, written off as a footballer by so many people, signed for what, 35,000 by Eddie Howe. No, it wasn't by Eddie Howe, was it? It was by Lee Bradbury. Stand corrected. What a signing. So again, we talked about Mark Pugh's progression as a footballer under Eddie Howe predominantly, but Simon Francis stepped up time and time again, and even in the Premier League, due to his pace, his physicality, what he could offer defensively and offensively on the overlap, his all-round game, he just edges it over Adam Smith, who also has a great all-round game. But for me, it has to be Simon Francis just on this one.
I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to mix this up then, Aaron. I'm going to give my vote and then bring it back to you, because I can see where Matt's coming from, and I think it would be not easy, but I think you can edge towards Simon Francis. Now, in this ultimate team we're building, I'm just going to mix it up. I'm going to go with Adam Smith, because Adam Smith has been a great servant. He's passed 300 appearances now. And you know what? He can do a job on the left-hand side if I need him to in the 90 minutes. So because of his versatility, I'm going to give it to Adam Smith, which makes it 1-1. Now, coming to you, Aaron, if Adam Smith was to watch this, he'd probably say, hang on a minute. judge me on 2014-15, not 21-22, but that's how the battle works. Who are you going to choose for right back?
Yeah, look, we're purely judging this on those two promotion seasons. So what Simon Francis did in the Premier League, I'm not going to try to think about at the moment, because towards the latter end he went more centrally, and actually after that season Adam Smith was played more regularly anyway. But purely on that season, you can't look past Simon Francis. He was pretty much almost ever present. He added height, as Matt said. He was up and down that wing with Matt Ritchie. So much energy in that 14-15 season. A leader as well on the pitch. And Adam Smith this season has been outstanding when he's played. Obviously, he was out for a long period of time. And when he came back, we realised how much we missed him and how important he is. And the fact that we gave him that contract at the end of last season has already paid dividends, because he's such an experienced head now and so much. So both legends of the club. If we were looking at their ability over the whole period of time at the football club, my answer might be different. But purely on last season and then that 14-15 season, I'm going for Simon Francis.
And let's look at the football pitch and the team that we're building so far. After 4 players, we've got Simon Francis at right back, Matt Ritchie, that partnership that they had in 2014-15 at right wing, Philip Billings in the middle, and Mark Pugh to the left. So we're doing okay for the moment, guys, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Right, Aaron, I think it's back to you to spin the wheel for the next battle. Let's do it. He didn't want it. The one he didn't want is Callum Wilson, bought from Coventry, versus Dom Solanke, 20 million down the drain, bought from Liverpool. Over to you, Aaron. Base it on the Championship seasons.
I've just got to go, boys. I'm back in a bit. I just want to caveat as well to all the wonderful Cherries Red Army listeners out there and supporters. I wanted both of these up front, but we didn't get the choice in that, so I've got to choose between them.
No, rules are rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kirk's the gaffer, so what he says goes. This is difficult because, my natural instinct is to go with Callum Wilson, because he's one of the best striker I've ever seen in a Bournemouth shirt. And I've seen Luther Blissett was my hero back in the day. But Callum Wilson is just, everything about him is just outstanding. 2 huge injuries and what he gave us in that Championship promotion season. But then you look at the other side of the coin, and if you're purely judging it on this season against that season, numbers speak for themselves. I can't exactly remember what Callum Wilson got in that season.
I want to think he got 23 off the top
right.
of my head.
It was early to mid-20s for sure.
20 plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Dom Solanke played 46 league games. He scored, 29 league goals, and in many respects carried us a lot of the times this season. So again, you're judging him on this season then, and forget what's happened before when he was playing second fiddle to Callum, quite rightly, in the latter Premier League days. This is really, really tough because I absolutely adore Callum Wilson, and if we could sign one player back now, I'd want him back at the football club, because he's clearly still doing it for Newcastle. But Dom Solanke's numbers purely on those 2 seasons are pushing me towards him. And again, this isn't. Can't re-emphasize this. It isn't necessarily who we think's the best player who would have in an all-time season, all-time team, because Callum Wilson would be in there every day of the week for me. But purely on those 2 seasons and on the season he's just had, I've got to put Dom Solanke in there. But I am devastated that Callum Wilson isn't going to be in this team.
Dom Solanke gets the vote from Aaron. Matt, it's absolutely mental that we might not have Callum Wilson in an ultimate AFC Bournemouth team, but Aaron's absolutely spot on, I think, in what he's saying. And when you look at it, we probably wouldn't have got promoted without both of these players in those eras scoring all of those goals. But when I look at it and think, Dom Solanke, if we didn't have 29 goals and in for 46 games, I think we would have just maybe edged the playoffs.
Here lies the point. If you'd have asked me this or asked us this 12 months ago, it wouldn't have been a debate, really, would it? Although Dom had a great season, we'd have said, oh, no, come on, Callum Wilson all day long. This season, he has been, as Beyonce once sung, irreplaceable.
Because Are you going to sing it? Are you going to sing it?
I can sing it if you want. I mean, I'll post a YouTube video up later about it. There's a great live performance from her on it. But we're digressing here. He has been irreplaceable this season, hasn't it? There isn't a plan, and this is where you probably judge it. The fact that if he had got injured at any point, we wouldn't have had a replacement for him. End of. If Callum Wilson had got injured in 2015, Brett Pittman could have stepped in. You know, there was other players knocking on the door that could have potentially stepped in and maybe done a job. Albeit Callum Wilson got the goals. You know, his finishing was second to none, really. Along with Pittman, actually, they were both great finishers, 1-on-1 with the keeper. But looking at Dom's all-round game, he offers so much more than Callum Wilson and has done this season. I'm talking about his all-round work rate, his link-up play, running the channels. Callum Wilson used to do it. I think Dom does it better. And has done it better this season. And he's still managed to score, 29 league goals. So he's outdone Callum. So as Aaron rightly says, if we're basing it on 14, 15 and this season alone and leave it at that, choose one, it's got to be Dom Solanke for me. And unbelievable to think and say it, but it's Dom.
Yep. And I'm going to have to go with it as well. I think I echo all what you've said. And it's ridiculous Callum's not in this team. But how this is panning out and how we have to judge it. Yeah, Dom Solanke is in this team and you'll see him on the football pitch very soon. Now, I think it's my turn, guys, to spin the wheel and see who we have next. Okay. It's going to be our first centre-back in this ultimate promotion team. It's going to be Steve Cook versus Nat Phillips. Wow, I mean, Steve Cook again. I mean, we've talked about legends and Matt rightly said that we're not judging this on what they've done throughout their career. He was at Bournemouth for 10 years, but more what they did in that promotion season. And Steve Cook was absolutely awesome in that season with his partnership with Tommy Elphick. And look at some of the goals he scored as well. And he went on in Premier League to score some great goals. I remember the goal he scored at Fulham. But I can remember when he went into that championship season, it was a second championship season. But I remember Steve Cook of League One that used to make mistakes. And as he went on and continued his career and we went through the levels, less mistakes were coming into his game. He still had them, but not at the rate he used to have them in League One. And he was just an awesome centre-back. He led with his performances. He left everything on the line, heart on the sleeve. Unbelievable player in that 2014-15. And Nat Phillips came in from Liverpool. We're all excited about this signing. We'd seen what he sort of could do in a Liverpool team that was in the Champions League. And I think he made 17 appearances in that season for Liverpool in the Premier League. And I wasn't convinced by Nat Phillips at the start. I thought I saw a player that was strong, had heading ability, but sometimes maybe didn't have the composure on the ball. But I think he's 24, still got time to grow. Those last 3 games, though, guys, him and Kelly were awesome when we needed them to be awesome. And when we're looking at potentially looking to sign him permanently or on another loan deal, you look at those last 3 games and you can probably say that you're going to have a go at trying to sign him. Whether he's worth 15 million is the big question. But when we look at this, Aaron, Steve Cook 2014-15, he's going in that football team for me.
Yeah, no doubt with this one. Nat Phillips made a great contribution. Obviously, kind of Gary Cahill was the first half of the season. Nat Phillips was pretty much the second half of the season. So both of them instrumental in helping us win promotion this season. But Steve Cook, Cherries legend, regardless, consistent throughout that season. Again, another leader on the pitch. Nottingham born and bred, if you'd look at Twitter recently. Huge presence. And for me, without a shadow of a doubt, Steve Cook gets this position.
And Steve Cook did get a whole season, unlike Nat Phillips, who got half a season, Matt. But Nat Phillips is going to struggle to win this battle, I'm sure of that.
Well, it's another one of them, isn't it? Where it's, Jayden Anthony, Ryan Christie's, Nat Phillips is going to say, well, hang on a minute. How can you? There's no comparison, is there? Of course, you're going to go with Steve Cook, lads. I mean, the only thing I would say is that, yeah, you can quote me on this if you want. I'll say it live, but I think Nat Phillips in the long run will probably go on to be a better centre half than Steve Cook, and that's not that's not a slight against Steve Cook at all. But he did have an error in him, and he wasn't blessed with the most amount of pace, and sometimes he was stretching himself at Premier League level, albeit you would always get 100% out of him, and he'd put his life on the line for you. But technically, as a centre half and as a footballer, I believe that Nat Phillips will probably develop into a better player, all-round player than Steve Cook. But if we're judging it on 2 seasons, so it's going to have to be Steve Cook all day long.
Steve Cook's in the ultimate promotion, AFC Bournemouth 11. Make sure you're getting involved in the interactive chat. Subscribe and hit the like button. Matt, we are back to you. We've got 5 positions left. Let's get the next one. Oh, you're getting midfield. You are getting midfield. Harry Arter versus Jeff Lerma. Yeah, take this one away.
This is the one I didn't want. This is the one I did not want, because I can't. I mean, I've called McKitten Lerma, for God's sake. But Harry Arter is one of my all-time favourite players. This is going to be so tough, because if you're going to bring emotion into it as well, the 2014-15 season with Harry Arter, with everything that happened to him personally. But let's push that aside. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what he gave to us, his energy, his tenacious nature, everything that he contributed, both offensively and defensively. Again, a player that came from Woking, and we signed him for what, £5,000? Yeah, £4,000 or £5,000. Yeah, you've got Jeff Lerma that comes from Colombia for 25 million. So are we factoring those things into it? Because for me, at times Jeff Lerma, if we're going on this season, has been a liability, hasn't he? And we know that Harry Arter, his disciplinary record wasn't great either, and he could be the same. So this is such a tough one. They're both similar players in so many ways, but they offer different things as well. So how do you choose? I mean, if looking at the numbers, I mean, Lerma doesn't weigh in with that many goals for a midfielder, but then nor did Arter. Lerma will score a screamer from nowhere now and again. So did Arter. You could toss a coin on this one for me. So how do I decide? What am I going to base it on? I'm going to base it on the fact that where Harry Arter came from. I think he from Woking, £5,000 to how he developed and came through the leagues with us. And how he adapted, and his attitude, and the longevity and the service that he gave to the football club, and that his performances throughout 14-15 season. Again, another pivotal member. Whereas we haven't all said that about Jeff Lerma this season. He's been replaceable at times. He's had to be, because his disciplinary record's gone before him. So we've had to find another player to step in. So Harry Arter for me, by the toss of a coin, by a hair's breadth.
Right, Aaron, don't stitch me up here. When we look at that 14-15 season for Arter, he did score some absolute rippers, some great goals, long-range shots. That one against Middlesbrough off the inside of the post in the north end, Steve Fletch stand. You're not going to leave Jeff Lerma out of this team, though, surely not.
Oh, Matt's made a really good case, and he was pulling deep into my heartstrings there, I have to say, and I didn't disagree with anything he said. The biggest compliment you can play these two players is that when they're not in the team, I crap myself. So when the teams were announced in 14-15, Arter was injured or whatever he was, and I was like, oh, no Harry Arter, big problems. And I do feel the same about Jeff Lerma. I know we have coped without him at certain times of the season, but no Lerma, I'm like, oh, that's a big problem. They're both pivotal and they both give everything. They're both, as Matt said, liabilities with their yellow cards, their booking, disciplinary records. They're tenacious. They wear their heart on their sleeve. So again, it's a toss of a coin. Whatever decision I make, it's not a clear-cut one in any way, shape, or form. But for me, I think Jeff Lerma's a better player, purely, and that's all I'm going to go on. Lerma is going to get in this team for me because. Yeah, he costs a lot more and has every right to be a better player because he's cost us a lot more money. But just Lerma picks it for me.
Knew you were going to do this to me. Absolutely knew you were going to do this.
That's why I did it. So I don't
I love Jeff. Thanks, Jeff, as well, for giving me a photo after the Millwall game, last home game of the season. Appreciate that. I just knew you were going to do this to me because I want both of these in the team, like you wanted Wilson and Slanky in the team. When I look at it, though, and I can't believe I'm going to do this because I absolutely love Jeff Lerma, and I think we are a weaker side without Jeff Lerma. When I look at that 14-15 side, Harry Arter was the heartbeat of it. And he scored some massive goals and he ran for every ball. And like you two have said, that they're similar players. They all like to tackle. They'll run forever. I think Arter's numbers, will be slightly better. He probably played more games than Jeff Lerma as well because the FA stopped Jeff playing more games. I'm going with Arter. I'm going with Arter. I can't believe I'm leaving Lerma out.
No, honestly, it could have gone either way for me. I'm delighted he's in the team.
Tough. So tough.
Arter's in. Sorry, Jeff. I know this is ridiculous. We're just so going to get mean for this potentially. Right, who's up next? I'm confused now because of where we are. Is it you, Aaron?
I think it's me, yeah.
Right. 4 to go. Okay, Captain Tommy Elphick versus Captain Lloyd Kelly. These are two different types of centre-backs, I would say. Aaron?
Totally different. And this is the problem. This is the conundrum we've got. You've got Tommy Elphick, captain, who in my opinion is the ultimate captain, was a true captain, and quite rightly was. A brick, a leader, again, not blessed with great pace. And again, Eddie straight away said, no, you're not good enough for the Premier League. After that unbelievable season he had in 14-15, he wasn't even given a go. So Eddie obviously saw something in him that wasn't Premier League capable, but what a leader, what a presence, and that more than anything, I think, carried him through that season. Lloyd Kelly was the captain. I still stand by. I don't think he was the right choice for captain, but that's by the by, because that's not what we're going to judge him on. Lloyd Kelly's recoverability, if that's such a word, is his strength. He's very, very quick. I think that saved us on countless times, and I think you do need that pace at the back, certainly in the Premier League. But I think, even in the Championship, the amount of times he recovered from those positions, and when he wasn't in the team, certainly in that early spell after that 15-game unbeaten run, when he was out of the team for a period of time, we really struggled at the back, certainly for pace. He's had his critics. Sometimes he's a bit lax on the ball, looks a bit casual. Distribution can be brilliant, but can also be a bit all over the place, shall we say. But again, like you said, Kirk, in those last few games, he stepped up and was absolutely immense, and showed those leadership qualities, which Scott Parker obviously saw in him. Massive fan of Tommy Elphick, love the guy. But he did have errors in him as well. It wasn't all perfect. I think it's easy to look back on that season with such fondness and not think of any bad moments, but there were some. He did get caught on a few occasions. This is a really tough one for me. Really, really tough one. But you know what? The team's taking a very familiar shape. So I'm going to go the other end. And again, feel free to disagree with me. And as with all of these players, the one I don't choose really hurts because I'm big fans of them. Huge fans of them, but nostalgia is not going to play a game here. I'm going to go for Lloyd Kelly because I think his pace, I think his development as a centre back is going to get better and better. And I think I'm going to choose him to partner Steve Cook, so we have that bit of pace.
I can see why you've done this. And when you look at Steve Cook, it gives you maybe balance. But Tommy Elphick will say, hang on a minute, I played alongside Steve Cook. We had a great partnership. The big one is that Lloyd Kelly's got that pace, and that was the one thing that let Tommy Elphick down, and that's why he ended up not playing much for us in the Premier League. But Tommy was the man in that 2014-15, and of all those players and that talent we had in that side, he was my favourite player that season. So based on that, I'm going for Tommy Elphick, which means it's 1-1. So Aaron did it to me, so I'll do it to Matt. Over to you to decide who's going to play alongside Steve Cook, Matt.
Unbelievable. I can't believe it. when this came out, when Aaron got this, I thought this is a no-brainer. It's Elphick all day long. As Aaron was talking again, obviously it gets me thinking, and we're all debating it. We're discussing it, and I'm thinking, what do we base this on then? Do we basing it on Tommy Elphick and Lloyd Kelly as captains? Because that's Elphick all day long as a leader and a captain. Are we basing it on their potential? So who can flourish more in the Premier League? Because that's going to be Lloyd Kelly for me. Or are we just basing it on their all-round game this season, and for Lloyd Kelly and Elphick in 14-15. So there's so many permutations to go with here. And then you've got the emotional element that comes into it, as always, creeps in, that Tommy, 14-15, what a leader, legend. Like Kirk says, one of my favourite players that year, run through a brick wall for you again. The thing he used to do with the goalposts, the character he had, the personality, whereas Lloyd Kelly's a little bit moribund, isn't he? And like some of these players are these days, they don't seem to have much personality or character about them. So what do you do? I'm going to struggle to go Lloyd Kelly over Tommy. I get, Aaron, what you're saying. As a footballer, Lloyd Kelly will be a better footballer than Tommy Elphick and a better centre half, just like Nat Phillips will be over Steve Cook. But I can't leave Tommy out of this team. I just can't do it. So I'm going to, on that basis, for his pure leadership and his captain that season. Again, he knitted it all together. It's Tommy Elphick.
But you built a good case, Aaron. Totally saw where you were coming from.
Oh, 100%.
Tommy Elphick plays alongside Steve Cook. Right, I think it's me. We've got 3 players left. Spin the wheel. And I'm back in the midfield for the holding position of Andrew Surman versus Lewis Cook. Andrew Surman, I mean, he used to get a lot of stick, didn't he? Not so much maybe in the 2014-15, but, sideways Surman and all of that we used to hear in the stadium. But he was the glue for me. And when you're talking about ultimate professionals, he was an ultimate professional. So look, he wasn't fancy. He did the simple things very, very well, but he started the process. He would sort of mop up things in midfield, and he'd get Harry Arter on his way, Mark Pugh on his way, and he would keep things ticking over for us. But Harry Arter wasn't Harry Arter for me without Andrew Surman, and Andrew Surman wasn't Andrew Surman without Harry Arter. That they needed each other, like Zamora and Anthony needed each other. So very much Surman was critical in that season and just went about his business, sometimes unnoticed. Lewis Cook, I mean, what a player he's been in the end. We were looking at him thinking, is he this driving number 8 that we thought we got from Leeds? And 6 years later, is he done after 2 massive injuries? And then suddenly he comes into the side. He picks up that holding role. He pushes Lerma back up top to play in midfield. And he picks up man the match after man the match. And he was a driving force. And he never stopped going from there, guys. I mean, he kept driving. The amount of times he turned over the football against Nottingham Forest at home, won the ball back for us. Then he got us on our way. Look, he's not got that final pass necessarily, but he just finds the right areas to win the ball. And again, he's become massive. And I felt like for the first time in that last quarter of the season that he was playing without fear. I felt like he was playing in fear of getting another big injury. And it's almost like he's mentally let that go. And we really saw a really good Lewis Cook. I'd love to have Andrew Surman in this team because I think he's just an ultimate pro. But Lewis Cook, the last quarter, arguably player of the season if you based it over a quarter of a season. And it's Lewis Cook for me. Aaron?
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think Surman, was one of the unsung heroes. Never really got credit, but as you said, he was the glue. He was kind of pulling all the strings. And yeah, I can't echo enough everything you said. But Lewis Cook, I think the only argument would be that it took Lewis Cook. Obviously, he had the injury, which he started the season late, and then he was played out of position, and lots of us questioned what he was actually doing in that team. But if you put him in that holding position, that number 6, for me, he is a level above Andrew Surman as a footballer. So for me, Lewis Cook is going to go in that team. Yeah,
Lewis Cook's going to get his spot in the ultimate promotion 11, Matt. But Andrew Sermon, I want to think he picked up a few goals. I can remember the goal he scored at Sheffield Wednesday. Was that in that championship season or the one before? Lewis Cook only got the one goal. I think it was against Stoke City. But Sermon and Lewis Cook, even though it's a done deal now, Lewis Cook's in this starting 11.
Yeah, I mean, Sermon got one at Forest as well. I think we lost that game, but he tended to curl goals, didn't he? And with that, probably his left foot, wasn't it? Yeah, into the bottom corner. But the only argument you could make for, like Aaron's already pointed it out, is that Lewis Cook's only done it for 3 months of the season, whereas Andrew Sermon was consistent over the season. But one thing that people might fail to remember, is that Andrew Sermon was a winger before he came to us. He played on the left wing, and he was converted to a central midfielder. And he just did the simple things, didn't he? Did the basics. And you rightly said, Kirk, that Harry Arter needed Andrew Sermon and vice versa. But Lewis Cook, again, we're basing it on potential here as well. Lewis Cook will go on to be the better footballer, I think, than Andrew Sermon. And if you take Lewis Cook's contribution over the last 3 months of the season, that was really pivotal in getting us over the line. I think without it, we wouldn't have got the job done. He was absolutely phenomenal in that midfield, in that sixth role, those last 3 months of the season, none more so than in that Forest game where he just dominated the football match from midfield, him and Lerma. So, yeah, I would go Lewis Cook as well, just about. But big shout out for Sermon, because he did get some stick, and it was unwarranted, a lot of it, because he did the simple things and he ticked us over well.
Right, 2 players left to go. Big shout out to Andrew Sermon. We've got a left back position and a goalkeeper. So I think it's back with Matt. And we need to go to that spinning wheel. And these are going to be 2 key positions for us, guys.
There's one I don't want to get.
There is one you don't want to get. Right, let's go for it. Matt, over to you. I think you're going to get the one Aaron doesn't want. It's the goalkeeper. It's the big pole in the goal, Artur Boruc, versus the magnificent Irishman, Mark Travers. Matt.
Yeah, this is a really tough one. It is a really tough one because obviously Boruc, again, big character, big personality, lovable pole, prone to an error, but would come out with unbelievable saves out of nowhere, wouldn't he, to keep us in football matches. And he was a great keeper. But when he came to us, he was obviously coming to the end of his career, and what a great career he'd had. He'd been pretty popular everywhere he'd been. And he was pivotal for us again that season with his experience and with the fact that he could pull wonder saves out of nowhere, albeit that he did have an error in him. You never quite knew what he was going to do. And I think that endeared him to the fan base, didn't it, in a lot of ways. But you might be surprised, you might not be surprised, but I'm going to go with Mark Travers because he has been absolutely phenomenal. I've come on record to say before, from where Mark Travers was at the beginning of this football season, everybody wanted to ship him out on loan. They didn't feel he was ready. There was question marks about his abilities, whether he could command his box, whether he was a great all-round keeper, whether he was what we needed. We needed an experienced quality keeper in there. He responded to that criticism. So not only was it about Mark Travers' footballing ability and goalkeeping ability, it was about his mental strength, and it said a lot about the man. And as much as we all love Artur Boruc, we always will. Again, he'll go down in folklore, certainly, at this football club. But Mark Travers this season has been player of the season. He's kept us in so many games. And I don't think Artur Boruc needed to do that in 14-15 because we were more dominant, we were more expansive, we dominated football matches more. The margin of victory, I think, was greater at times. We were that much better, in the final third, certainly, and with, the team we had in front of Boruc. Whereas Travers hasn't had that this season. He's been called into action so many times, and every time he's been called into action, he's responded. Every single time. I can't remember him making too many mistakes. His all-round games improved. Other players in front of him have improved him, like Gary Cahill, Adam Smith. So for me, it has to be Mark Travers for me. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal this season for such a young keeper, such a young lad.
2 great goalkeepers, Aaron. Great shot stoppers. I mean, I think Mark Travers is maybe better with his feet than Artur Boruc was, although Boruc will claim that he was sort of bow-footed in a way. But when I do look at these goalkeepers and think, is there something different about them? And the only thing I can really see is I think Boruc made some really crucial penalty saves. And I want to think it was in the championship season. I know he made some good saves in the Premier League, but Travers, I think, had to face 3 penalties this last season and didn't save any. So if Boric is going to have a shout here, is it something like that he just had a bigger presence in those types of scenarios?
Look, yeah, Boric was an outstanding goalkeeper. I think Matt also, again, got it spot on when he said he wasn't as depended on as Mark Travers was. As we said with Dom, and one of the reasons Dom got in was without Dom we wouldn't have gone up, and without Mark Travers we wouldn't have gone up. Okay. You could argue that another goalie instead of Artur Boric probably still would have got promoted. So legend as he was, and as Matt said, he's gone down in folklore in the football club for what he did for the club. Purely on the season just gone compared to that season, yeah, you can't not have Mark Travers in their team.
And he picked up multiple awards, 20 clean sheets. I'll go with that. Mark Travers as well. Clean sweep, but a great goalkeeper was Artur Boric. Right, Aaron, there's one more position left. And you know Jay-Z is going to give it his best shot. We'll spin the wheel just to confirm it and make sure it's all done properly. It's going to be Charlie Daniels versus Jordan Samora. Charlie Daniels versus Jordan Samora for left back to play behind Mark Pugh.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it? To play behind Mark Pugh. So he got in there to Jaden Anthony. So we want to keep that partnership going. Look, when I first thought about this, I thought, Jay-Z's made such an impact, in my opinion, more so than Jaden. He stepped up when we perhaps, were trying to look at bringing a left back. And he made that position his own all season. Missed him massively when he wasn't around, when he got injured against Reading. Any kind of poor run of form for us coincided with Jordan Samora not being in the team. He was brilliant going forward, scored some unbelievable goals and assists, and just such a bubbly character, and was brilliant. Charlie Daniels, though, it was just, again, you can't think back to the sort of the last couple of years of Charlie Daniels when he was past his peak. Purely on that season alone, he was a man mountain. Again, tall for a left back, brilliant engine, scored some unbelievable goals, brilliant defensively, some of those crunching tackles, and again, a leader. I mean, look, the whole back four, which I think we're going to end up with, were leaders, full of leaders. And Charlie Daniels was one of those. Loved him to bits. I think this goes down the category where Jordan Samora quite possibly or probably will end up being a better fullback, a better player, maybe reach a higher level, because he's still so young, and gave so much to this season. But Charlie Daniels was, again, pretty much ever present that season, and was part of an unbelievable back four and an unbelievable left-hand side partnership. So, yeah, Charlie Daniels for me is going to get the nod. But again, look, with all of these, they're difficult. But Charlie will get it.
Charlie Daniels from Aaron. Right, Matt, when you look at Charlie Daniels, someone who also struggled with injuries in League One, and when we went up to the Championship, he then found a way to play more football matches. Maybe he had help behind the scenes to stay fit. But is Charlie Daniels maybe slightly a better defender, but both players great going forward?
Yes, I think, again, he's a player in the sort of Mark Pugh category, and a lot of the players from the 14-15 season that stepped up the levels, didn't they? We saw him in League One and thought he's a decent fullback. Can he play in the Championship? Answered those questions emphatically, didn't he? Because he was outstanding in 14-15. And then a lot of people asked, yeah, but can he do it in the Premier League? I'm not sure he can make that step. And he did that again, didn't he? Again, it's another one where Jay-Z is going to argue, well, I'm young, you haven't given me a hope here because I've only just started out. So you can factor that in. But Charlie Daniels, 14-15 against Jay-Z. I mean, what a season Jay-Z's had. Brilliant. Aaron's already highlighted it all. Phenomenal. Jay-Z's got a different style. He likes to cut inside, whereas Charlie Daniels was pure overlap, wasn't he, with Pugh, that partnership. It's both great partnerships, Anthony and Zamora, Daniels and Pugh. But Daniels used to maraud down that touchline. He used to get whip crosses in. That left foot of his was absolutely lethal. And defensively, aerially, and defensively overall, definitely the better player at the moment, albeit that Jay-Z will, as Aaron probably rightly says, go on to be a better footballer maybe ultimately in the future, but you can't look beyond Charlie Daniels, can you? To make this slot at left back, he was unbelievable that season. Again, another one.
Charlie Daniels wins this battle and completes our starting 11. I hope Jon Spark gets the opportunity in the Premier League. Let's see what he can deliver. He's got another contract extension for Bournemouth, along with Jaden Anthony. Let's see what they can do. But a great partnership that Charlie Daniels and Mark Pugh had. We loved it. We absolutely loved it. Right. We're going to show that final team on the screen in a moment, Aaron and Matt. I put Tommy Elphick as captain. Are you happy with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, without sort of bringing drama to the video, is it wrong to ask who would manage this ultimate team out of the two managers? Or is it quite a simple answer, really?
It's a simple answer, isn't it, really, at this stage?
Yeah.
Eddie Howe, then.
Yeah.
It's Eddie Howe. Right, let's look at that final ultimate starting 11. Ultimate 11 that we've drawn up, and we're very appreciative of you joining on this video if you've been able to do that in the interactive chat. If not, you can let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you disagree with any of those positions, then do let us know. And I'll tell you what, in the comments, if you weren't able to watch this, just let us know what your ultimate 11 would be from the 2014-15 season, 2021-2022. There we go, Matt. That's the team. I think it's 7 from 14-15 and 4 from 21-22. What does that team have? Just wrap this video up.
Well, it's got a mix of everything. It's got I mean, technically, if you're talking about technical footballers and the quality of the footballer, you probably would have to say that this 21-22 team is better. But the 14-15 team had spirit. I'm not saying that 21-22 hasn't had spirit, but it had togetherness, it had cohesion, it had partnerships all over the pitch. The never say die attitude. It had heart, and it had expansive football. The link-up play, everything that went with it was there. So you've got a real mix in there. You have some real quality, and also some players there that will run through brick walls for you. And some real character in that team. So. It's a great blend. I think. And it's just been interesting to do this evening and go down memory lane a little bit and just to compare the two. It's been brilliant.
Aaron, that back four just couldn't be broken up.
No. You know what? Looking at that team now, I know I did plump for Lloyd Kelly, but I'm more than happy with that back four. I can't argue against it. I think, out of those 11, I think maybe there's one or two which we could argue toss of a coin. I think we've spoken about Wilson, possibly Lerma. Other than that, I think that team probably does just pick itself, although there were difficulties.
Brilliant. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Also hit the like button. It's massive for our growth. So smash the like, hit the thumbs up. And as I said, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you to our Cherries Red Army supporter members as well for contributing towards the channel. You can become a Cherries Red Army supporter member by going to buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Link is in the description below. You don't have to become a monthly member, but you can also donate a one-off payment just to say thanks for what we do. But hitting that like button is absolutely fine as well. Brilliant. Really enjoyed this video, guys. Matt, more to come. Thanks for joining us on this latest Cherries Red Army content.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Kirk. Really enjoyed doing this one, and lots more to come over the summer next season. Looking forward to it all. And I'm just gonna, it's going to be really interesting to see the comments when this, underneath when the video goes out of other fans, other people's opinions on this, because, everybody's going to have one, aren't they? And they won't necessarily agree, and it'll be just so interesting to go through it. Great stuff.
Aaron, we're expecting a busy pre-season, but Cherries Red Army will be there. More content coming.
Yeah, can't wait. Bring it on. 2.5 weeks till the fixtures release day. That's when it gets all very real. We start biting our nails, looking at fixtures, wondering when we're going to get the points. But looking forward to all the content we've got coming over the summer.
Brilliant. Really enjoyed it. That's the ultimate promotion AFC Bournemouth 11. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Aaron. And as Beyonce once sung off of Matt's Spotify list, we're crazy in love with the team we've just designed. Enjoy yourself, look after yourself, and we'll see you on the next video. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.